Welcome to Kings of Kimuras.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Kings of Kimura. Happy to have Dom here with us today. And also you can notice we got a third person. We got Heath the Ref in the house. He just came through and he did a workshop with us, and I highly recommend if you have competitors competing in ADCC, bringing this guy out. He's going to show you all the ins and outs. It's not going to be able to show you everything in one, so make sure you bring him out for multiple times. So
maybe you guys don't recognize me because I just washed my hair, but let's take the old turban off. Now everybody,
my eyes.
Everybody can recognize me now, huh?
I'm blind over here, dude. It's too much.
Thanks for joining us. First off, I wanted to have you here and kind of like pick your brain on where you kind of see the sport of ADCC going. But first, let's like talk about how you kind of got into Jiu Jitsu.
I started doing Jiu Jitsu at UT. I went to the University of Texas at Austin, and I was taking this swimming class, and this guy was just like, bro, like I was doing like flips on the diving board and stuff, and he's like, bro, you'd be perfect for jiu-jitsu, you should come. And so I went, and the first class that I ever did, we did like side control escapes. I still remember it. And I went with my friend Adam, and I remember after I was like walking out of the room, I had such a crazy pump because I was just squeezing as hard as I could, like knew literally zero technique. I was just squeezing. I had such a crazy pump that I thought my like skin was gonna pop. And the only time that I've ever had that happen after that is like I never work out, but I went and did like a bicep and tricep workout at the gym with like a friend one time, and it felt like the same way. But that tells you how hard I was squeezing. I was literally just
day one.
Yeah, I see that a lot on like first day beginners. They're like they hold on to every position like it's the end of the world. And like, dude, you gotta. It takes a while sometimes for people to catch on to that, and they're like, I don't know why this person keeps escaping. Well, it's like you're only squeezing their upper body. You're like not controlling their hips at all.
Bro, but some people just get really good at squeezing, and they never actually learn anything, and then they're like, a couple years in, and they can just, they got a few belts, a few stripes or whatever, and they can still just squeeze the shit out of you.
Yeah, Keizagatame, dude. I was like, my first professor, dude, his Keizagatame was like just death. I could also preface by saying I was like 12 or 13, but still, a grown man just in Keizagatame pulling my arms up. Yeah, I tapped to that a few times. But
do you guys remember the first submission that you ever did?
The first submission?
Like ever?
I think the first submission I ever did was a triangle.
Yeah.
Like in a roll.
Yeah. I was like really lanky, obviously still very lanky, but when I was a kid, I was super skinny, and I saw Hoist Gracie triangle some big dudes, so I was like, you know what? I think a triangle's going to be my move. And I remember specifically for maybe like 2 months, I was trying to triangle kids and failing, getting stacked, getting flipped, getting turned over. But then one day I finally got this kid in a triangle, and I just remember being like, let's go, dude, yes! And that kind of like became the basis for my game when I was a kid, the triangle. So
yeah, I remember my first day in a class. It was like at an MMA school. There was no like just pure jiu-jitsu, and they did grappling on 2 nights. So Wednesday night was grappling, and then Friday night was open mat. And I did my first class, and I was like, I've like watched some UFC stuff. I've watched some YouTube. Like I'll probably be okay, And I remember I got somebody in a triangle, but I had no idea how to finish. And it like dawned on me then, like there's a whole other aspect of this that I didn't even think about. I was like, I can just retain this information from watching a video, and I'll be amazing at it. But it was a humbling experience because I got beat up by like a 16-year-old kid that was like a phenom,
You ran into Mika Galvao as a child.
Yeah.
What about you, Heath?
Yeah, I think mine, I was... Probably, if my friends are watching this, they're going to be like, you're still spazzy. But But I was so spazzy when I first started, and so the first submission that I ever did, I like grabbed somebody's arm and just like fucking ripped it off their body. And then one of the coaches came over to me, and they were like, dude, you know you can like break someone's arm by doing that. And I was just like, oh, what? Like it had never occurred to me that like that was the point. And now obviously I know like the point of forcing somebody to submit is like, you know, either they're gonna be strangled unconscious or like take severe damage or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, like I just remember, you know, I was like,
yeah, I think sometimes trying to explain that concept to a beginner, because I see it a lot where you're like, hey, dude, you could really hurt somebody or you could hurt someone else. And it's almost like they don't fully understand that until either they hurt someone or they get hurt themselves. And they're like, this is why you said don't do it like that.
Or get hurt or hurt someone multiple times.
Right. Yeah.
And
Sometimes
they realize
it's not
it.
just a one and done deal. Yeah. I actually, we had 2 guys last night that came in for trials, and I was hesitant on putting them together for the game or like the situation. We weren't doing any submissions; we're just like passing the guard. But I always watch those people extra careful to make sure that they're not like doing too much or.
And they were doing too much.
And they were doing too much, but they weren't hurting each other. So I was like, okay. And the guy on the bottom definitely knew what he was doing too. So he was like retaining his guard while this kid's trying to like Toriando him fast and like get chest to chest. I'm like, try to slow down.
Yeah.
Try to slow down. But yeah, that's the. I didn't, since I started as a kid, it wasn't too hard for me to slow down, especially because I wasn't very physical. And most of the people I rolled with were like teenagers and adults. So I couldn't really like use strength anyway.
Yeah.
If I tried to, I would just get bulldozed. So
It's so different when you start when you're a kid, huh?
it is a bit different because you don't have like, you're not grown into your body yet. So you really have to figure out like how to, like if you're retaining guard or something, I can't just push somebody away with my legs like a leg press. I'm just not strong enough. So I had to learn how to like frame with my legs and frame with my arms and not allow them to put pressure on me in certain ways. So, and I got pretty flexible too, because sometimes I put my leg there and they would just put the pressure anyway. So I was like, okay, well, guess I'm working on my flexibility.
A little bit of weighted stretching.
Yeah, especially in the gi, they're like, really pull me in.
How did you get into reffing?
So I was at a Thursday night jiu-jitsu in Austin, and my friend Christos was competing, and he was like, "Bro, are you going to the ADCC Open tomorrow?" And I was like, it was Thursday, so then the Open would have been on Saturday. He's like, "Are you going to the ADCC Open this weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, you know, I was thinking about going and watching, maybe like helping some of the guys warm up or whatever." He was like, "Oh, you know, well, they're looking for people to work, like officials. So just email this person and you can do it." I was like, "Oh, great." So I emailed them, and they were like, "Actually, we're already full, but come and go to the rules meeting anyways, just in case, like, we need you."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, like, whatever, I'll go." So I drove up. My friend Michael was staying in Dallas at the time, so I stayed with him. I went to the rules meeting, and I was like, you know, I introduced myself. "Hey, you know, I was the guy who wanted to help." And they're like, "Yeah, sorry, bro, like, you know, just be on standby in the morning in case we get somebody who doesn't show up." And then I was just like hanging out with my friend or whatever, and we stayed up until like 2:30 in the morning. And when I woke up, I went to bed and woke up, and if you guys don't know, the officials are supposed to be at the venue, like already in the venue by 6:45 in the morning. So when I woke up, it was already 8:30. And I I wake up, I go look at my phone, and I see a text from this like number I don't know, and it's like, "Hey bro, we had 3 people pull out, we really need you." And it was like at 6:30 in the morning, the text came in at 6:30 in the morning. I was like, "Oh shit." And so I got all my stuff ready, and I was like out of the house. I like woke my friend up. I was like, "Hey, I'm taking your car," and he was like, "Huh?" And so
See you
I was
later,
like,
bro.
and so from the time that I like woke up, saw the text, and got in the venue, this was in Dallas. So I was staying in I think my friend's house was in Farmers Market.
Farmers Branch?
No, Farmers Market is downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like super close to the venue. But the venue is huge. Like the Dallas Convention Center is like as big as an airport. So by the time I left and got into the hall where we were doing the Open, was like 25 minutes. I literally sprinted through the halls. I was like, "I'm here." And they're like, oh, great. We actually ended up finding enough people. So we don't actually like, we're not like dying for extra people right now. So you're going to be the floater. And so I waited for a little bit and I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And they're like, oh, just go to this other mat over there. Like, I think they've been having problems with their ref. Mm-hmm. So I go to this mat and I think the primary judge's name was Alex or something. I've never seen him again after that. But he was like, I'm sitting there, I'm like helping him like, you know, keep track of initiations and all that stuff. And after a couple matches, he's like, are you assertive? Are you authoritative on the mat? And I was like, well, you know, I've like never done this before, so I don't know. Like I can be, which is like not the way that you answer a question about being assertive. Like a question about assertive, you answer, yes, I'm assertive. So he was like, all right, well, this guy is not doing a very good job, so we're going to swap you out. So they put me in. At this point, it's like, you know, 9:30 or whatever. So like right in the middle of the kids, and the kids are the hardest out of the whole day because you have the freedom to stop the match whenever you feel like it's getting too close to submission or whatever. Yeah. Luckily, I only had to do a few more kids matches until the end of the kids, but that was super stressful. So I get on the mat and I was like, you know, made a couple mistakes the first time, but you know, constantly evaluating, asking the primary, you know, what about this? What should I do here? Whatever. And then we get into the adults, and I'm doing like, you know, masters and some intermediate beginner brackets, and then this advanced bracket pulls up to my mat, and I'm like, oh, this is sick. Like these guys are actually good. I think Shaggy was even in the bracket that I was doing. Yeah, because he used to be smaller, right? Like 2 years ago, he was pretty small.
I was probably in that division too.
Yeah, it was 76.
Was it 76?
I think it was 76.
We both did 83.
It might have been 83.
Yeah.
But anyways, the semifinals was Oliver and John Blank, and it was on my mat, and I literally never reffed before. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die. This is crazy. Like this is so cool. Don't mess up. Like you can do this. And I did it, and it went like super fine. There was like one point when John Blank, like they went off the mat and I said stop, and then John Blank kind of like kept going, and I had to like hold Oliver up as he was like falling off the concrete and stuff, and so Oliver ended up winning that match. And then the finals match was Oliver and John Combs, and you guys have seen Oliver's matches, right? Like sometimes, you know, he takes a lot of risks and he'll get put in really bad spots, but he always escapes, and then he comes out. And so this match was like Oliver puts John Combs in a Tarico Plata, and then John like is able to escape, and when he escapes, he immediately gets on Oliver's back. And so now there's this like Tarico Plata to back scramble that happens off the mat. And then there was like you know when they have the plugs in the ground and it has the little metal cover? So they had that on the ground. And it was like poking up, and these guys like rolled on top of it, but I like stuck my foot out to like put it on top so that they didn't get poked by it, and my foot was like about to explode. And then Oliver like scrambles out and pulls John Blank into a knee bar and finishes him off the mat in the finals of this advanced division. And I'm like, stop. And there's like a picture of me like standing up, like, you know, with my legs like spread out, like going like this or whatever. And
in there.
Yeah, and then John, it's like John Combs like, and Oliver like hipping into the knee bar. And yeah, that was like my first ever experience. And so then we had like some more matches after that, and Mo came over to the table and he was like, hey, I'm going to take your picture. And I was like, what? Okay. So Mo pulls out his phone, and I didn't know what the picture was for, so I was just like, and then he was like, I'm taking pictures of people that are doing good so that we can remember them and maybe we use them for trials. Yeah. And I was like, oh, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, that was my first time reffing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so then I skipped the Phoenix Open because at that point they weren't like paying for my flights and stuff. And I did the Chicago Open because that was the one that we did that was 2 days. So it was like worth it. I flew to Chicago and they paid us for 2 days. And I was working with Jonathan Waters, and he was like giving me tips. He was saying like, you know, they're looking at you to do trials. So like, let's like build you, like make you better so that you can do trials. Yeah. Did a couple more opens. Then I did trials, both trials in the US, trials in Brazil. And then I went to ADCC Worlds, which was sick.
How different were the trials in Brazil compared to the US?
Do you mean like from just in general, or like from a technical standpoint, or from like an organizer standpoint?
Let's say organization wise.
I would say that they ran pretty well. So the the thing that's weird about the last season of Brazil trials, and I think they're doing it this year again, is like they do them in back-to-back weekends. But there's like a Jiu Jitsu tournament union in Brazil. So like if you work for a Jiu Jitsu tournament, they're all unionized. So if you want to put on a tournament, you have to hire the refs and stuff. You have to hire these guys. And so every table was like me on the mat, like a ref on the mat, and then a primary and a secondary, and a scorekeeper, and then like an extra person, and they have a runner that like comes and brings people to the table. So they run super smooth, but the venues have no AC. And so the first venue that we went to in Belo Horizonte, the venue was like purpose built to have no AC. So it was this crazy shape. It was the Minarinha or something like that, like the small soccer stadium, or the small stadium, and it's like underground, like the stadium part is underground, but then it's got this giant cone on the top, and the entire outside is open. So as people heat up the air, it rises out the top and pulls air in the bottom. So even though you're in this like underground, it seems like it should be stuffy, like it's kind of dark and stuff. It's like constantly there's like wind going through. But then like in Sao Paulo, we went to the Polideportiva like arena outside of the like main stadium in Sao Paulo somewhere, and it's just a giant box with no AC. And so it was so hot in both places. It was not that bad in Belo, but it was so hot in both places that they let us use shorts, which is like unheard of. Like we never ref in shorts. Like they always tell us black pants, black socks. And so there's pictures of like me and this other judge, Poria, and the only shorts that we brought were like, short swim trunks or whatever. So we're reffing in like thigh-high shorts.
Dude, that's so sick, man. That's crazy how they built it to like, because they're like, well, we don't have money for AC, so this is the next best thing we got.
Yeah, you got to be smart.
What do you think about the technique-wise, like compared to the U.S.?
I like know some decent technique, but I'm not like, world champion or anything. But dude, they just go so hard, and it works. But you see people do things like lock the rear naked, like they're doing the Macarena, like the lights.
Good, keep going.
They'll lock the rear naked like they're doing the Macarena. They don't do like a wrist over wrist. When they go for leg locks, it's not like control the secondary leg and like systematically build the heel exposure. It's like we're going. I get cross ashi, immediately I spin. If I'm holding the secondary leg, screw the secondary leg. Like we're going. Yeah. And I mean, it kind of works, but like eventually it stops working. Like the guys who win Brazilian trials are of course very technical, but the guys who get like 2 through 8 can oftentimes get that high just by like everyday poha.
Yeah. Dude, and also it's got to be like there's other guys like that, so it's like their styles.
Yeah, bro, they just go crazy.
Like two rams just butting heads.
And then nobody knows the rules at all. They all think it's IBJJF, and so like they walk onto the mat and they're like say their name, and none of them speak English, and so like I actually kind of screwed myself over the first Brazilian trials a little bit because like I was speaking Portuguese to them, but my Portuguese is not like perfectly fluent, so it takes a little bit of thought, but it's still like good enough that I can get around and stuff and have conversations and like go on a date or whatever in Brazil. But I was like spending too much time like trying to think about things, saying things to them in Portuguese so they actually understood me, and I like messed up some stoppages and stuff. And then I talked to the head judge, Peter, and he was like, this is an international sport, they need to learn English, like stop speaking Portuguese with them, just speak English. And I was like, you know what, you're right.
That's gangsters.
I'll just speak Portuguese on my dates or when I go out on the town or whatever. So
it's like they need to learn English.
Peter's been with ADCC for like the start, right?
I think since 2003 or 4 or something. He basically, as far as I know, when ADCC started in 1997 or 98 or whatever, they kind of the rules were still changing a little bit, and I think that by the time Peter got there, he helped settle them. That's as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'm not like an ADCC historian, but that's what I could gather from what he kind of told me and what some of the older guys that have been doing it for a long time have done. But yeah, he's super good. He's really good at answering questions, and he's funny too, because I'll ask him a question. He'd be like, no, Heath, it's easy. And I'm like, no, wait, Peter, but let me finish my question. And then he's like, oh, that's a great question. And so like whenever we go to the rules meetings, people ask questions, and he's always just like, it's easy. He's like a Bulgarian guy. He's super cool. But he's taught me some really good stuff. One of the main things that I've taken away from some of the things that he said is that if you want to understand ADCC rules, you have to forget everything that you know about Jiu-Jitsu rules. Because ADCC is not Jiu-Jitsu. It's ADCC. It's, whatever you want to call it, submission, grappling, whatever. The rules are so different that if you are an IBJJF world champion and you take on an ADCC world champion and you haven't prepared properly, you're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, it's almost like a different sport, because there are a lot of guys that come from wrestling backgrounds or sambo, and it's like a good mix of different styles,
Yeah, and that was the idea, is like they wanted to make sort of like an MMA for grappling, where it was pretty much an even playing field for sambo and BJJ and wrestlers and all that stuff. So, but then of course they want an exciting rule set, and so they've put in that. That's sort of where you get the ideas behind the ADCC rule set. Is like, how can we make a sport that mixes the grappling arts and is also exciting? So that's why you can turtle to avoid points, and we have the neutral positions and things about like continuous motion and all that kind of stuff, because we want to see, like, if you're going to go for a sweep and you want to score points, like, you got to finish the sweep. You can't like sit back and then you're both on your butt and then one person like
it's basically like advantage.
Yeah, like we hate that stuff, right? Like we hate the where the guys like tie up their fingers and then the IBJJF guy like sits to his butt. He does like a flying seated guard pull, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like that and
then they do the timer. And then if neither guy gets on top, they reset
Yep.
them and give them both a penalty.
Yeah,
Like,
and if it's 3 times, then the fourth one is a DQ or something like that. Yeah, so I think that ADCC definitely solves a lot of those issues. But if it's somewhat subjective whether or not you think that's an issue or not. Like, if you like that kind of thing in IBJJF, then you're like, oh yeah, well, ADCC is just making you pull without grips, and pulling without grips is bad or whatever.
Yeah, I do like the idea of being able to pull without making grips, like that whole, like you're saying, the timing of like, if you sit and somebody kicks your legs and now they score 2 if you don't jump back up immediately. Like having that portion, the first portion of your ADCC match where it's no points, submission only, is like, I feel like it kind of like evens it out for somebody that's not as good of a wrestler, like
for
obviously
sure.
You're still in a negative position if you're on the bottom, but still it like allows people that maybe aren't good at stand up to like still have a chance to compete in that.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea, that like one of the main things that people don't know or don't realize about ADCC from sort of a meta perspective, like what's the best thing that you can do for the rule set? Well, it's 2 completely different games in the same time period. You have a no points period and you have a points period. And then on top of that, if you go the distance, then you have an overtime where it forces you to stand up. So it's like, you have to ask yourself, what are people doing in timed submission only matches where they have success? And the best example of that is EBI, right? So what are people doing in EBI rules matches that's making them successful? Well, you get your guard passed, you never turtle, because there's no reason to turtle. They just pass your guard, you just wait, you work in, slowly frame, get your knees and elbows back together. And so that's how you should play the beginning of an ADCC rules match. And it gets a little bit more complicated when we start talking about like, what's the most effective strategy to win decisions. And I've definitely seen matches where people have let their guard get passed and then they ended up losing the decision. Jet Thompson versus, I don't remember the guy's last name, Nick,
Creighton.
Big blonde guy. No, not Nick Creighton.
Okay.
Big blonde guy. I can't remember where he trains, but it was I think it was in Phoenix or something. But anyways, if you guys want to try to find that match, then message me and tell me what Nick's last name is. But yeah, sort of from like if it's like, if you have me out for a seminar and none of your guys know anything about ADCC rules, like, what would I teach you? I would just, that would be one of the main things that we learn, right? Like, what are the types of things that you should be doing to escape from those positions so that you're not getting your back taken? And then once that 3 minutes hits, now we change up entirely and we go for a completely different strategy, because now we're going for, we have to, from bottom, we can't get our guard passed. Or if we do get our guard passed, you got a turtle, go to that neutral position, and then you can start working out from there.
But that's even scored as an initiation, right? If you're like forcing someone to turtle, right? You're like, let's say if we're going to, it's a referee's decision at the end. If you force somebody to turtle in the points section, you're obviously gaining that advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if the decision is made by the person who initiated more action, and so the idea is, like, if I go for a single leg and then you hit me with an uchimata, well, the only reason you got the uchimata is because I shot the single leg, right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind initiations. But so like I have this kind of theory of the order that you have to get good at things in order to win ADCC rules matches, and it probably works for IBJJF too. I just don't have enough experience with IBJJF to tell. But the idea is, like, well, if you just get submitted in all of your matches, then it doesn't matter how good you initiated action or scored points or whatever, because you still lost. And so that's where the idea comes in, like, just keep your back on the mat, right? Like, work on your submission defense, keep your back on the mat, that kinds of thing, so that you don't get submitted and immediately finish.
Yeah.
Then the next layer after that is like, well, maybe you can put up a lot of points, but if they put up more points because you're easy to score on, or maybe you have a ton of crazy submission attempts, a ton of initiations, whatever, if they score more points than you, then you just lose. And this is, like, super obvious, but this is, like, the order that you have to get good at things in. And then the sort of, like, the third level is now you're not getting submitted and you're not getting scored on. So all of your matches are going to decision. So now if you know exactly what the decision criteria is and you play the match knowing from the beginning, I'm not going to get submitted, I'm not going to get scored on. If I submit the guy or score on the guy, like, that's awesome. The match ends a little bit early. But if you treat every match from the beginning like it's going to go to decision, then you can set up the decision so that when the match ends at the end, the ref and the judge they just look at each other, sort of like a wink or like a little shrug or whatever. They don't have to go and discuss the match because you initiated so much action and they did almost nothing. And so if you set up your training protocol to work on submission defense, point prevention, and initiations, then it's literally impossible to lose.
Yeah. That's a great point, dude. I definitely. Where's my notepad, dude? I need to.
I guess it's recorded. It's on.
Yeah, exactly.
So now the whole world knows.
I can always go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a question because I saw Diogo Hayes and Diego Pato had a match at Trials a while back, and Diogo, I think, was like going for takedowns, and Diego was going to turtle, and then Diogo was like cutting him. Is that allowed?
Yeah,
like,
this is so. I'm actually planning on making a little, like, reel series that's like tactical strategies for ADCC that, like, won people matches. And so an even better example of this, so, like, Diego had to stand up in those instances, but an even better example of this when it actually worked is Ethan Kralenston versus Dorian Oliveras in the semifinals of East Coast Trials, or was it, East Coast Trials.
East
so
Coast.
If you're standing, there's a couple ways that you can bring it to the ground. One way is to shoot and drive forward for 3 seconds, and then you can pull. We call this a shoot to pull. And the other way is that if you ever end up in a neutral position, then there's no top and bottom, and you guys are grounded, so it doesn't count as a takedown, and then you could even pull bottom side control if you wanted. And that would be a way to get back to your guard. And so in this match with Ethan and Dorian, what happened was Ethan shot, Dorian sprawled out on him and pushed him away and disconnected. So now Dorian is standing and Ethan is on his knees. And Ethan thought, okay, if I just stay on my knees here for 3 seconds, then I can pull and go to guard. And now I don't have to wrestle with Dorian where he's going to, take me down or whatever. And so Ethan ends up taking a negative off of that. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get, he's going to get a negative. He needs to stand up. And he takes a negative, and I was like, that was genius. Like, why don't more people do this? Like, nobody noticed it.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to go for like a go behind or hit some re-attack, or he was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stand back up to now where you have to come back up to me. I don't have to.
Exactly.
And again, that's like so the opposite of what jiu-jitsu guys think. As like, well, no, like, I shot in, I should be able to just like fall back and go to my guard. It's like, no, sir.
And that gets back to the point of like ADCC is trying to mix different rule sets, right? And so that like Dorian knows he's never going to beat Ethan in a jiu-jitsu match, right? Like if it was like an EBI rules match, like I mean Dorian is losing 999 out of 1,000 matches to Ethan, you know. And so that was the strategy that he used to beat Ethan. And it was super, super smart. And so now going back to your example, when Diego Pato shoots on Baby Shark, if Baby Shark separates, then Pato has to stand up. Otherwise, he's going to take a negative.
Unless he maintains that shot connection for 3 seconds.
So if he was like on the single leg driving forward, you know, he's like running, doing a knee run or whatever, trying to put him down. Or if they're chest to back some way, then that will be neutral. And so that's kind of.
So I have a question. Gotcha. It's on that same topic. If you shoot in, let's say you catch a single leg, but you just like you stay on 2 knees, you're not trying to finish the single leg. That is not considered.
Yeah, probably that's not going to result in like a shoot to pull. That's going to probably be a negative.
I guess like Buchecha versus Gordon would be like a good example of that.
So
right?
that's not a good example of a shoot to pull. That's a good example of a neutral position to a pull.
Okay.
A good example of what not to do for a shoot to pull is one of Mateusz Zazinski's matches. I can't remember. Maybe it was versus Oliver in like 2019 or something. I don't remember. But he shot in and picked up a single leg and just held the single leg standing, not actually driving forward trying to take him down. And then he sat and he took a negative. But
I think I remember that. Was it against Oliver? I thought
it was at European trials.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So
I thought it was at
chances are that it was against Oliver.
Yeah, that's true.
Those guys have fought a bunch. But so now Gordon and Buchecha, what happened? So Gordon shot in, Buchecha sprawled out and grabbed front headlock. Gordon doesn't even need to drive forward for 3 seconds now because they're in a neutral position, right?
Because it's on the head, right? If he would have just
not let go
cut
of
him and just
then Gordon would have to stand back up. Right. Exactly. And the next time that Gordon tried to pull, what he probably would have done to adjust is be a little bit more tenacious on the single leg, lock his hands and drive forward on his knees, and then he would have been able to pull. If he knew that like Buchecha was going to try to, post his hands, post on the shoulder, like free the knee, limp out, like all those kinds of things, kind of what Dorian did to Ethan, then Gordon would have to adjust his strategy there. He wouldn't be able to just stay chest to back and then pull.
Yeah.
So if they commit to a front headlock, chest to back, then you can pull after the 3 seconds.
Yeah, as long as it's grounded. If it's standing, like if you snap someone down and you're holding them, their hands are off the mat and everything, then no, it's not neutral. It's still standing. You can still score off of that position, but as soon as it hits the ground, then as long as there's not continuous motion and stuff, then we're gonna be counting 1, 2, 3, and now it's gonna be neutral.
Gotcha.
How many times in a tournament do you have to like re-explain what a rule is to someone?
It's like,
how many times does something come up where I feel like I need to explain it to them, or how many times do I actually do it?
Because if I said how many times you should explain something, it would probably be like every single match.
Every single match, multiple times a match, probably. There's very few people that are like super competent with the rule set. But no, I mean, I am the kind of person where like I don't want you to be upset at ADCC because you lost by getting, you took a negative or you got scored on or you didn't score points. Like, I don't want you to be upset at ADCC like, it's just the rule set. I hate the rule set. Like, you have to know that there's logic and like, a structure behind the rule set. There's reasons why some things score and some things don't score. And if you aren't doing that thing Peter said where you forget about jiu-jitsu scoring and you just think about ADCC scoring, then like whenever you pass the guard and they're still on their side and you're like, why am I not getting points yet? Or, you swept them and they're still heisting their hips and moving and you're like, why didn't I get points yet? You're going to be upset. And so I like to tell people, hey, if you would have done this or that, then you would have scored. Like decisions is the biggest thing. We had a kids match San Jose, where I went to the table at the end of the match, and we talked, we thought this kid initiated more action for the first, say, 2 or 3 minutes of the match, but then for the other 6 minutes of the match, I guess it was a kid's match, so it would have been 4 minutes or 5, whatever, it doesn't matter, however long the match was. Mm-hmm. For the second 2/3 of the match, the other kid was initiating more action. And the mom was like, how are you going to call the decision for the other kid when my kid ended the match holding a submission? And I'm like, don't worry, like, I'll explain it to you. And she was like, no, I don't want to explain. Like, I don't want to. So, right. Yeah. They weren't very happy. But then, obviously, like, you pay to come out, you're super invested. This kid is looking to get points to qualify for Kids Worlds and stuff. So, like, if something has happened and it's wrong, like, you're justified in being upset, right? Yeah. But once everybody calmed down and they came back, we were able to tell them, well, what we're looking for is that you're initiating action. And so if you're getting guillotines because the other kid is shooting double legs, mm-hmm. well, that doesn't really matter. If you're doing something with the guillotine afterwards, like now you're hitting, maybe he shoots a double leg, you pull him up, you hit like a ukiwaza, like return him to the mat, you throw him or whatever, like that's one thing. But for this specific match, the kid was just shooting double legs and landing in guillotines. And so we told him that, and then the kid came back and he won every decision after that. Mm-hmm. So
it's like a little, literally. So if nothing else, if you're listening, forget jiu-jitsu rules and learn ADCC rules, because it's going to be a lot different. And I can firsthand tell you that I wasn't very prepared my first trials, and I went up against Chris Wojcik in the first round, and he had prepared for the rule set very well, because the first half of the match, attacking my legs, K-guard, 50-50, ankle locks, like the whole 9 yards, right? And then literally the second that points hit, he's wrestling up. Yep. He's wrestling up. And then he returns me to the mat, takes my back, and then chokes me. So it's like where it should go into where your defense should be so good that you're not going to get submitted and you're not going to get scored on. Well, I got scored on and submitted because I didn't know the rules very well. So
I guess also, the getting submitted part was not a rule set thing.
Yeah, that was just a straight up, I got my back taken. GG.
But yeah, you guys wouldn't believe the number of times that I see somebody like get their guard pass and no points and just like turtle, and then the hooks go in and they get strangled. And like I taught a seminar at a gym in Chicago before the Chicago Open one time. And then, they really liked it. They were into it. I taught them like turtle escapes and stuff, and how that relates to the rule set, like what escapes you should use when and when you should turtle and not. And one of the guys comes up to me, and he's like, bro, I was able to use some of your stuff. Like I used one of the escapes. It was great. And then this other guy comes up to me, and he's like, man, I should have gone to your seminar. I was like, what happened? He's like, I turtled during no points and got strangled. And I was like, bro, that was literally the whole point of my seminar.
Yeah.
Oh, so, no, dude.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
How many of these seminars have you taught so far?
Ooh, I don't know. A lot.
Yeah.
Every time I go to an open, I teach a seminar before that. And then if I travel somewhere else for some other reason, then I'll teach. And I came up to Dallas just because I had a free week.
Yeah.
So if there's other gyms in Texas, I'll just go out there. And I've done a couple camps now as well. Mm-hmm. So in the camps, we go over like you could probably tell from the class that I taught here the other day, like there's so much more to it than you probably would have even imagined. And so I just taught here finishing takedowns, right? Like that's not even talking about how should you be defending takedowns or defending takedowns early stage and late stage, specific for ADCC rules. How should you be playing the standing position for the specific purpose of scoring initiations, like doing all of this stuff. And then that's only standing, right? Mm-hmm. And then we go to the ground and we have that. And then we've got like, all different kinds of pins in the back and all that stuff. And so I went to Odyssey Jiu Jitsu in Atlanta, and we did a whole week where we just talked about, okay, if the goal is to score initiations, what's the best way to do that? And their guys have good guards and good outside passing. And so we talked about, how can you score initiations from outside passing? How can you score initiations from guard? Mm-hmm. And that was one thing that we worked on for like a day or two. it probably should have been 2 days, but I think it was 1 day. And then the next day we did, how to not get scored on for this and how to, it's like, it's always what techniques should you be applying to this situation, specifically for the context of ADCC rules. And I think it's pretty good technique. And so if you don't even do ADCC rules, you can still come and learn, like, maybe your training partner is preparing for an ADCC, and you keep taking him down, and he keeps popping back up, keeps turtling. You're like, man, how do I keep this guy down? Well, if you take him down to a half guard and throw in a Turk, then he's probably going to have a much harder time getting up. And so that's the kind of things that I think are super helpful for people. It's like so boring to just like sit there and, for most people anyways, to just sit there and say, okay, does this score, does that score? So I don't do that. I just do strategies and tactics for the rule set.
Yeah. I've done.
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Yeah, I've done 2 of those rules seminars. I did the first one that they did in Austin, and I feel like I learned a lot, but I still was like, I didn't grasp everything, and I went and did another one, and I picked up some more stuff, but I still feel like I need to do like multiple more, just to be like, because it's so complex, and I'm still learning more too, and the more matches that I watch, obviously, like I pick things up. But sometimes there'll be something where I'm like, I think that was a score, and like, no, that wasn't a score.
There was an instance like that same Dallas Open. Shaggy was fighting John Blank, and I can't remember who initiated first. I think it was Shaggy on a wrestle up. They're scrambling way past 3 seconds. It's got to be like at least a 10-second scramble. And then John ends up in bottom side, and there's no points.
Yep.
And so I'm not the kind of person that's gonna like get all pissed off. So I just went
confused.
Up to the table and I was like, hey, so like, is it because they were scrambling and then he ended up on bottom? Because I had kind of known about the 3-second rule. I just wasn't exactly sure how it worked. And luckily, I can't remember the guy's name who was working the table, but he broke it down to me just like that. He was like, they were scrambling for more than like 3 seconds. So when John ended up on bottom, there was no points.
I would have to see it to tell you exactly what happened, but I could imagine that it was, so in order to do a sweep, it has to be in a continuous motion, and so if Shaggy, he loves leg locks, and so if he went to wrestle up and then sat back on the leg and then continued scrambling, then that moment when you like switch from trying to sweep to doing something else, then that breaks that continuous motion, and so you can't then come up and get points. Could have also been, if he landed in side control, that John Blank was up on his side a little bit or something. It wasn't 75% of the back on the mat, so Shaggy went for a clean sweep and failed the clean sweep, so he got 0. So I could imagine either of those happened.
Yeah, that sounds about right. This guy knows, bro. Like he's the ref or something.
Yeah. So going back to when you first started training, did you start training at Renzo Gracie Austin?
I started training at UT,
okay,
and then I sort of had to take a break like everyone did during COVID. And then when I restarted, I was living without paying rent at my ex-girlfriend's house. So thank you for allowing me to do that. But it was right next to RGA. And so I started going to RGA in 2021, I think. Before John and all those guys were there. So I trained there. I think I was like one of the first 50 people to sign up even. Like I still got that locked in, like grandfathered, nice rate. So I was training there. Jason was teaching a lot of the classes, and there was a guy who had moved from Connecticut to Austin, Pete Pizars, and he started teaching a leg lock class. So I trained there for a couple months, and then Jason was like, "Hey, gotta tell you a secret. You know how the DDS broke up?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "They're moving to Austin." I was like, "Yeah, I kind of knew that." He's like, "They're coming here."
Yeah. And
so I knew like weeks before the internet did that Donaher was moving to Austin, or was moving to RGA. But then I was awarded a Fulbright scholarship, which is like a Department of Education thing that like encourages inter-country relations, like international communication and stuff. So I moved to Germany for a year, 2 weeks before John showed up. And so I saw like all my friends like training with Gordon and Taza and Gary and all those guys. And I was in Germany teaching English for a year. And then when I came back, just started training with I just went back to RGA, you know. So I just do all the classes at RGA, and you know I hop around a lot now because I travel so much. So you know I trained here the whole time I was in Dallas, and if I go somewhere else, I'll go to like 10th Planets, and you know I've gone to Fight Factory in Austin, and I'll train at 10th Planet Austin and 10th Planet Georgetown, just like random gyms, Half Gracie Georgetown. So I just get around, and I feel like the fact that I'm not like super locked down with one gym is good because I can pretty much ref any match. It's like, oh, you can't ref, you know, Oliver Taza versus John Combs because you're friends with Oliver, and it's like, oh well, I'm also friends with John Combs, so like I can be super fair.
Yeah, you're like, I feel like being friends with all the guys like makes it better.
Yeah,
right? It's like you're not locked in on one gym. That's
and I have like a bit of a reputation in the gym that the guys at the gym feel like I'm harder on them than I should be.
Yeah,
and it may be that they're expecting favors from me or something, and I'm just treating everyone the same. It could be that I'm also like
you should know better,
biased against them or something. You know, that's totally possible. But I usually try to just analyze all the matches like as objectively as possible. I try not to let the coaches saying like he's stalling ref like influence what I'm doing or whatever. I always try to just like, you know, remain calm and analyze the situation and figure out what's the actual right thing to do, because usually
that's a big IBJJF tactic that people use where they know their athlete didn't really do enough to like get a referee's decision, so like the last 30 seconds they spend speaking Portuguese, like, hey, you did everything right, you know, you were in these positions, and like trying to influence the referee,
convince the ref. And I do this thing, I think, I don't know if all of the judges do this, but I find it really beneficial, is I always try to argue for both people. Unless it's super obvious, I always try to argue for both people. Hey, this is why this guy should have won, or this is why this guy should have won. And then we build the best arguments for both of them, and then we just pick the one that was better. Yeah. So
it's like law, dude. It's like being a lawyer.
Yeah, well, your next stop is where? For reffing? Oklahoma?
For reffing, I'm reffing main character this weekend.
Okay.
I'm reffing Enigma next weekend, and then ADCC Oklahoma the weekend after that.
So full weekends. Yeah.
And then I'm going to Hawaii the next weekend. I think there's maybe something on the 21st of April or the 19th of April, and then I'm going to Hawaii the 21st of April. Going to visit 3 of the islands. Big Island, Maui, and Oahu. Yeah. So I'll be, you know, trying to book some seminars there, and there's a couple huge crews of kids gyms and stuff that fly from Hawaii to California to do the ADCC Opens in California. Yeah. So hopefully I'm going to get in with some of those guys.
I always thought that's wild. Like I see so many people come from the Big Island and from Oahu to compete. Even here in Dallas, I see it because they can get direct flights, but like knowing how expensive that is, it's like, dude, you guys got some deep pockets.
Bro, you know how much my flights were from Austin to Big Island to Maui to Oahu and back to Austin?
How much?
$535.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder, I know that people that live in Hawaii, they get like different rates for flights sometimes. So
like cheaper rates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
But like between the islands, like $50.
Yeah,
and it's like a 40-minute flight. Like you literally just go up and come down. It's like going Austin to Dallas on a flight.
Yeah, the inter-island travel is not expensive at all, but it's like, you know, if you go prime season, especially from here, you're going to be like, you know, $1,000 easily, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going prime season. I'm going like randomly in the middle of April. Yeah. That's what it's nice about not having a real job.
Yeah,
I used to be a teacher for like one full calendar or one full school year, and I would have to like leave school slightly early so that I could drive to the airport and then be at an ADCC Open, and I would get there at like midnight the day before. And then have to go and work all day and then leave on Sunday. And it was just like a complete disaster. It was awful. And so, I don't do that now. And I have so much more freedom, like to go wherever I want, whenever I want, which is so nice.
That's good. Yeah, if you can make a living from doing it, man, you know, that's amazing, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not an avenue that I think is like explored, you know? I feel like you're the first guy to do it.
To be a professional jiu-jitsu referee?
Yeah, go around and teach, because I feel like it's a very, like, ADCC is a, not niche, but it's a very specific rule set, and you bring good knowledge to the table. And so, like, just the days that you've been training here and obviously the seminar, I've learned so much, dude. I feel so much
Glad
more,
to hear.
like, now that I know these things, I can apply it to my training. And then ADCC Oklahoma City, dude. Let's go.
You guys are screwed.
Yeah.
I've never like worked with somebody for a super long period of time, but I think I have a theory and I need somebody to test it. So if there's anyone watching this that wants to do like weekly online privates or something, I think that I could take somebody from not meddling to winning just off of strategies and tactics alone. I think it wouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
So that's like will be my ultimate goal. Like because I don't really compete. It's just not my thing. There's like almost nothing that I like about competing.
I'll tell you, Heath, I have not medaled at ADCC Open yet.
Well, we could talk about it during the podcast. Like what the thing that I would do is I would look, okay, why are you losing? If you're getting submitted, well, let's start there. Like, what submissions are you losing to? Okay, let's work that submission defense. And, you know, I may not be I've seen, like, so many matches that, like, I think you were asking me if I even watch instructionals anymore. And it's like, I see that, like, all these techniques applying and how they work and stuff. So, like, I have a pretty good, like, a general idea, like, technical knowledge of what you should do and what people are doing to escape and that kind of thing. But I'll be able to guide somebody to say, like, okay, if you're losing by, say, triangle, well, here's the like types of things that people are doing to escape triangles, and here's an instructional to go with it. Okay, now you're not going to get submitted with triangles, so now let's look at the next way that you were losing. Well, how were you getting scored on? Because probably you weren't getting taken down, guard pass, mounted knee on belly, back taken, all of it, right? You weren't getting clean swept and clean taken down. Like, it was probably like you were getting your guard pass. Okay, well, like, what's the best way that we can first retain guard in ADCC so that you're not getting scored on? And then if you get your guard pass, what's the best thing to do after that? And so those are the things that I'm super interested in looking at. It's not necessarily like, you know, I don't want to sit down with somebody and be like, okay, well, you know, if you pin 75% of their blah, 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 and like just talk, that's super boring. Like, I'm way more interested in how can we actually like apply techniques to the rule set to make it work. And so that's kind of, I guess, my growing area of expertise.
Yeah.
Your project, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Project Heath.
I got one last question for you, and this is something I'm always curious about. You know, IBJJF, they provide like a little lunch for people, and it's always like the worst looking food, you know, like what does ADCC do for you guys? Like what do you get for a meal working for ADCC?
Is this like an advertisement for people to work for ADCC?
Yeah.
No, so they definitely say in the email, you should bring your own food because what we're providing is only a snack. But then they always provide slightly more than a snack. And it ebbs and flows. We've definitely had like better or worse food, but like one of the days at trials, they brought us these like 18-inch long subs, and it was like the best like Italian cold cut sub that I've had. You know, it was like super good. And then they've been doing pizza a lot recently, so like each table will get like a whole box or two of pizza. So it's definitely been like pretty good recently.
Yeah.
But if you have like some dietary restriction or something, definitely bring your own food. We had snacks at the last one too. We even had like oranges and like packages of gummies and all kinds of stuff. So it was like San Jose was super nice. But yeah, they're getting better. Like the opens are just getting better in general. Like we were talking about the Orlando Open earlier today from 2 years ago where we stayed until 2:30. Like I haven't had an open where I stayed past 10 in the last year. So, you know, working on streamlining everything, getting everything together. And if you're worried about 1,600 competitors doing your open and you tell all the judges that, you know, we're going to provide a small snack, you need to bring your own food, then that's like the last thing you're thinking of when you have parents coming to you and complaining about blah, 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 or whatever, you know? So, but no, they're getting everything streamlined.
The last Dallas ADCC Open, I was cornering a kid from another gym, and something screwed up with like the scorekeeper or the table guy where he was not logging the fights correctly, like who won. And so
that sucks, because then you go back. If you do a fight after it was logged wrong, then you can't go back and redo it.
Yeah. So what they had to do is I don't remember if it was Megan that came over or not, but it was like whoever the woman was that was like over that came in and had to rewatch all of the matches and score them, and then also like, okay, this person initiated, and like even though we were like, no, this person won, this is how they won, she's like, this is what I have to do, this is the process. And so we like sit there for like a good 30 minutes while she rewatched all of the matches.
That sucks for sure.
Yeah,
we don't like, along with the organization part getting better, we're getting a more experienced crew as well. And so there's more, you know, more judges that really know, they have like a solid idea of what they're doing. Like you could give them any match in the entire like jiu-jitsu community and they would score it correctly. So we're getting more and more of those people. We're getting more experienced secondaries, people that know how to run the computers and stuff, and more experienced refs. And so those mistakes have become less and less over time. I myself can say that like when I first started, I had some, you know, controversial stoppages in kids matches and stuff where I stopped it too early or stopped it too late. And as I've gone on, I've gotten more consistent and have a better idea about when I should stop it. So it's all just, it's getting better, and it's going to continue to keep getting better until there's no reason to do an IBJJF.
That's the ultimate goal. Let's get it.
Well, another thing that is like kind of separates you guys is like people can wear whatever they want to wear, obviously within reason, you know, like. But,
can't go nude, but there was a guy in a Canadian Open that wore a Speedo.
Yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
I just came back from the gi pans in Florida, and they were like not allowing people to compete because their gi was like a legit half-inch too short.
Yeah.
You know?
Or don't you have to go shirtless in the gi if you're a man? It's like, doesn't make any sense. Like, what effect does that have on the match?
I don't know, but to me, it seems like they're trying to get to the point where like you have to buy
their gi.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they already, like Sugar Roll has an IBJJF gi, and when I tell people that, they're like, no, they would never do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? IBJJF is a for-profit organization. If you've ever seen the price of like how much it's gone up over the years, there's no way that they're not turning like a 100%.
I mean, it's like $175 to sign up for pans.
Yeah.
And then you just can lose your first match, and now you paid to go out there and all this stuff. And did that happen to you?
They just give you a thumbs up, dude. They're like, good job,
But
buddy.
I think what's worse is that, okay, you travel all the way out there. Most people travel with at least 2 gis, or, you know, if you're doing a no-gi event, 2 sets of gear. And then you get out there and they're like, hey, by the way, your gear doesn't meet our regulations, you know? So I had this happen to a student, and they told her, oh, you have to go buy a new gi. And I go, you see this, how tall this lady is? Like, she's going to have to wear like an A5 gi to get one that's like long enough, you know? Like,
she has to buy like 4 gis.
And sew them together.
Yeah.
Well, like now she gets custom made gis. So like they took the IBJJF specs of what you're supposed to have for a gi, went to this manufacturer, had the gis custom made, and they were still like, no, this doesn't work. This doesn't meet our regulation.
Yeah, I mean, there's like always 2 sides to a story, and I would love for like to sit down with an IBJJF person and they tell me why they do that, and like probably somebody cheated by having too short of a gi or whatever. Who knows?
Dude, they used to complain about Marigali's gi. They used to. I think Victor Hugo even was like, bro, the gi pants like are coming up to here. Meanwhile, everybody else is like, because now it has to be covering the ankle.
Yeah.
Before
damn, you're like stepping on your own gi pants.
Pretty much,
it's like right here at your heel.
That's crazy.
I know for a fact though, because I remember seeing Victor Hugo posting something about 1 year at Worlds, like Marigali's gi was pretty short at the pants.
Yeah, and it, like I feel like one thing that we're really good about in ADCC, way better than IBJJF, is like it's an open. it's an opportunity for people to get experience under the rule set, like make it a good, it's like Jay, the guy who's sort of, I think he's the head judge for North America or something like that, but he's responsible for setting up all the mats and everything as far as like which judges go with which refs. But he always tells us like it's a customer service job.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I try to explain the rules to people so much, so that they don't feel like they're getting stolen from by ADCC. And that's one thing that we do really well that IBJJF doesn't, is like we're not going to DQ you for almost anything. Like if you're a kid and you slam, like we're probably going to DQ you. But like, you know, I could imagine if we had gi matches for ADCC, which as far as I know is not happening anytime soon. But I can imagine if we had gi matches at an open and that was an issue, there would be like some leniency. And if your gi was like, you know, up to here, then we would say like, bro, come on, that's a little bit extreme. But, you know, if it was supposed to be here and it was like right there, then, you know, we would probably let it go. And so we do, like, I do a lot of education stuff like that, times where, could you DQ this guy? Like, yeah, probably. Like kids that accidentally jump guard, I say stop and stand them back up. Hey, bro, like you can't jump guard. Here's why you can't jump guard, because it's dangerous. But we're just going to restart it standing because you can't use an illegal technique to whatever, that kind of thing, right? We don't DQ people for, like, in IBJJF, you get DQ'd if you immediately if you cover their mouth and nose, right? Yeah. So, like, even Jonathan Gracie had some guy's back and he put him in a full Nelson. And I was like, let go, let go, let go. And then after the guy who was getting put in the full Nelson realized that it was an illegal technique, he was like, and then Jonathan like let go, not because the guy was like saying but just because I told him to let go, and he grabbed his seatbelt and the guy kept going like there was no problem. Like I guess he probably thought, you know, like people like force the reap on themselves and they're like, my knee like exploded.
Bro,
we don't do that stuff.
You want to tell them about what happened at No-Gi Worlds in the final?
Yeah, that was pretty.
Like
in the gi?
No-Gi World final, brown belt.
He got robbed pretty much. He fought a guy from AOJ.
It was Fabiuri Christian. You know Fabiuri. He fought Daniel Sattler on.
Oh yeah.
He's fighting Andrew Tackett.
Yep.
So Dom is like destroying this guy. He's putting so much pace on this guy that he can't continue. And so instead of like, you know, just accepting the beating and like, okay, I lost.
Getting scored on or whatever.
Yeah, I was about to pass his guard. I had him in like I was doing like a topside cradle, like splitting his legs, and I'm like about to pass, and he turtles and we go out of bounds, and I go to reset, and you know I'm ready, dude. I'm like I feel the momentum shifting. I'm down on points at this point, and then he was like my knee. It was like, my knee's hurt. And I was like, oh, well, that should be like a dub
that's
for
a win.
Me, right?
Yeah,
and
I beat his ass.
That's a dub because
I can't continue.
I dislocated my finger, and I had to, like, stop the match because I just wasn't confident putting it back in myself. And they were like, yeah, sorry, that's a L. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to get mad at the refs. You know, I should have just back into place. But he was like, my knee's hurt. So the medic comes over and is like wrapping his knee for like 4 minutes, and gives him time to rest, and gives me time to rest too. Obviously, no excuses. But then he ends up like poking me in the eye a little bit, and I like start blinking, and the ref tries to stop it and bring the medic, and I'm like, get out of here, like
let's go.
Yeah, we need to like, because that's where I do best in the matches. You know, is when the momentum starts to shift. You have, you know, keep it going, but just those little breaks in the match just threw everything off, you know. And something as little as that at a high level.
Yeah, and it wasn't just once though. It was like at least three times that they stopped it. And then like after the match, the guy celebrates, and then he goes on to do the absolute as well.
It's and he like jumps up onto the podium with his knee wrapped. Yeah, I'm like, I guess funny.
The tape healed it, man. It's got the
I have a story like that from. It was not like a malicious kind of stoppage, but. I reffed, why can't I remember his name? The old guy from Oklahoma. Six Blades. I know.
Oh, Lovato?
Yeah. I reffed Lovato versus Gaudio, and they're like part the way into the match, and Gaudio like looks up at me. This was a match that I reffed at Worlds. He looks up at me and he's like, And I guess his English is not super good, so I couldn't tell what he was saying. And I was like, what's wrong? He's like, oh. I was like, what? I'm like, stop. Like, what's wrong? He's like, my finger's broken. And I was like, what do you mean your finger's broken? He holds it up. I'm like, your finger looks fine. He's like, no, look. And it was like a golf ball sized like swelling on his middle knuckle. And it was like starting to turn like purple and stuff. And so I call Sasha, the medic, over, and he's like, what's up? Like, he says he broke his finger. And so then Sasha's talking to him, and I go over to the table, and the table's like, why'd you stop the match? I'm like, supposedly he broke his finger. And I go back over to him, and Sasha's like taping around, and then Gaudy's like, no, it's fine. And I look, and it's literally one piece of tape that goes around his finger, around his middle finger, and then one piece of tape around his wrist. And he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, what do you mean you're fine? He's like, I'm ready to go.
It's like 2 pieces of tape.
Yeah, it's literally 2 pieces of tape. Like, how is that helping your broken finger? And so we restart the match, and he gets guillotined by Lovato. And sick, nice guillotine finish from Mount. And it was just like one of the weirdest things that I've seen. We had Achilles Rocha also got like a huge gash over his eye in one of my matches. But yeah.
Ouch. I feel that. I got a little scar right there. A little headbutt.
You were talking when you came the other day about like the worst injury you had seen.
Yeah.
It was like a recent ADCC where the guy went unconscious.
Yeah, that was crazy. The guy's name is Neil. I hope you're doing fine, Neil. Man, it was an intermediate division. They were wrestling. It was a sick match. And then the one guy just gets a standing front body lock, like up high with underhooks. And I think he hits an outside trip, or maybe it was like a lift and a mat return. And the guy just like landed flat on his back. And I was in the perfect position to see it. It didn't look like his head bounced off the mat or anything. The video, you can't tell his head bounces off the mat. And he's kind of laying there. And I'm like, that's weird. I wonder if he got the wind knocked out of him. But I'll let him keep going because like getting the wind knocked out of you is not like a time that I stop a match. And then the guy who put him down just mounts him. And this guy Neil is just laying there like completely limp. And he's like, he's out. And I was like, stop. I'm thinking to myself, like, what do you mean he's out? Like, I'm trying to, like, did he have like was it like a pinch headlock instead of like a double unders? Like, did I miss something? Like, how was he being strangled? He didn't even, like, he went down hard, but not that hard. And I go over to him and I put my hand on his chest and I'm like, hey buddy, you all right? And he just goes, and just spits up like all this mucus like into my face and onto my shirt. It was so disgusting.
Like,
and then he starts
good.
having like a little mini seizure, and so we roll him on his side, and he was unconscious for like a minute or two. And when he comes to, we're like, bro, like, are you okay? He's like, what happened? We're like, you went unconscious. And then a couple seconds later, he's like, what happened? We're like, bro, you went unconscious. And a couple seconds later, he's like, did I go unconscious? We're like, yeah, bro, you went unconscious. We're like, what day of the week is it? He's like, Thursday. No. Friday. No. Saturday. And we're like, okay, good enough. So like he guessed like 3 times, and then we were like, okay. But so we did all the right stuff. Like the nurse came in, or whatever the medic person was, and they held his head still, make sure he didn't have a neck injury. They like, can you feel here? Can you feel here? Okay, it's safe for you to get up now. We called the ambulance. He goes and gets checked out at the ER. And then he shows back up at the venue like 2 hours later. We're like, bro, what are you doing? You just got knocked out. Like one of the craziest knockouts we've ever seen at ADCC. He's like, yeah, they cleared me. I'm fine. I'm like, what are you talking about?
You just couldn't remember what
you
day of the
literally
week it
took
was.
like a 12-6 mat to the back of the head. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think what happened is he was tucking his chin, and then when he landed, he kind of like whipped his head or something. So I don't think he necessarily hit his head on the mat.
He just jiggled his brain.
Yeah,
which might be worse.
I almost wonder if that guy like had other concussions. Like,
who knows?
Yeah,
it could have been like a secondary concussion kind of thing. But yeah, I've never had anyone get knocked out unconscious on my mat. I've had plenty of people get strangled unconscious. But the only other like bad injury that I've had was I was telling you guys earlier, Andre Porfirio in the absolute semifinals in the first Orlando Open. Fought Dylan Melton and just didn't tap to Dylan's inside heel hook. And the thing was, Andre had like 3 matches back to back. It was already 2 a.m. And so we were like, you get no rest. You have to keep going. And to be fair, everyone was like that, but I think Dylan might have had a little bit of rest. And so we're like, you got to keep going, Andre. You got to go. No rest. You go now or you're DQ'd, because they were threatening to arrest. They're threatening to arrest the people who are running the event and for trespassing or whatever, because it was 2 a.m. We were supposed to be out by 11. And he had just fought like some random tiny blue belt, some stud wrestler, Brandon George, and they were all full-length matches, and he won all of them by like decision or something. And now he's going into a match with Dylan Melton. He gets put into an inside heel hook. He's just dog tired. He's coming off of like 18 straight minutes of mat time, and Dylan puts him in an inside heel hook. He just doesn't tap, and his patella completely dislocates to the outside of his knee, and he's like, tap, and then he's like, and he straightens his leg. I didn't know this, but apparently when you dislocate your patella, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
He straightens his leg, looking at his kneecap and the outside of his leg. I'm watching, and I'm like, and as he straightens it, he gets it all the way to that point where it's straightened. It like locks for a second, goes a little further, and then it just goes straight, like clicks back into place. And he like stands up. Dylan gets his hand raised, and Andre like walks off, and he just sits in a chair. And I'm like, bro, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And if you guys have ever met Andre, he's like a super nice guy, but he definitely does not tap to anything. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. We're like, do you want to do the 3rd place match? And he's like, yeah, actually, nah, I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like he thought about it for a second. And then he didn't end up doing it. But yeah, I mean, he had a crazy match. His first match at PGF, he got put in a Z-lock, and he was like, yeah, I thought I could take it. And then it just like his knee popped again. And I was just like, Andre, like, it was literally his first match. Like, you have 11 more matches after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to save your knee, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've had that same injury where the kneecap went on the outside, and I can tell you it is one of the most painful things I've ever experienced.
I believe it.
That's crazy.
Like, when it's out, it's painful, and then when it comes back in, it's still painful.
Yep.
Yeah. Mine was not from a submission, though. I went to take somebody down, and it popped out.
Yeah, people get a lot of injuries from takedowns, huh?
Yeah.
That's why you get a pull guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pull guard safely, though, within the rules.
Yeah. Maybe don't jump guard. But
yeah, that's silly, dude. I should be able to slam you if you jump guard on me. What is you talking about?
Well, man, I want to thank you for coming out and doing the podcast with us. It's
for sure.
Been fun. And again, guys, if you're looking to expand your knowledge in ADCC rule set and tactics, I highly recommend having Heath out to your gym.
Yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram. Just if you look up Heath the Ref and you follow any other people on Jiu Jitsu, I should pop up.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
Thank you, guys. And make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. Follow Heath on Instagram as well. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's Kings of Kimuras episode. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey. Remember to keep training, stay curious, and always be ready for the next adventure. Until next time, keep your guards up and your mind